Hello, Jim here. Selling options is a great way to make some extra income on a monthly basis. Now, when you pair it with a Roth account, it can open up a world of opportunities. Today, I'm going to share with you what I'm doing in my own Roth account, how I'm planning to grow it fairly rapidly, and just the freedom it gives me by having a lot more in that one particular account. The fact that I can access the funds in it tax-free, it really does open up the ability to retire early or just to reach financial independence and be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it. I'll share with you what my account looks like, the trades I've recently made in it, and how I've done this past month in that one particular account and what I think it could potentially grow into. So stay tuned. I think it's going to be well worth your while. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, in the past, I've always encouraged people to set goals. I've set goals pretty much for my whole portfolio. I've said, well, I want to earn $8,000 on a monthly basis. And I haven't really drilled down to my particular accounts. Now I'm beginning to change that. I'm going to start focusing more on individual accounts and what I wanted to do for each and every one of those. So the first one I'm really focusing on is my Roth account. And why am I focusing on my Roth account? Again, because it's the best vehicle we have for retirement. We can access those funds not interest-free, but tax-free. We can pull the funds out and we don't get hit tax-wise. So if we can grow that account rapidly, double, triple it over the coming years, we have a lot more choices, a lot more freedom in our retirement because we can access those funds with really little to no impact. So what I'm looking at is I'm trying to get about a 3% return on a monthly basis in my Roth account. Last month in September, I believe I got 2.4%. And so far in October, I have reached that goal. I have reached 3% just for the premium. Now, if I'm able to do that month in and month out, it ends up, if you look at the compounding, it ends up being more like a 41% yearly return, especially if you base it on the end of the balance at the end of the previous month. So that's what my goal is. That's what I'm going to share with you. And the fact that when you look at it and you play around with the numbers, it's almost like a snowball effect as as that snowball rolls down the hill and it keeps gaining more and more momentum and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's almost like what can happen with your Roth account. I'm going to share with you some numbers at the very end of the video that will show you what it looks like if you get a 1% compounded return over the next couple of years versus 2% versus 3%. So I'll share that with you. I'll also share with you the trades I did this month just in my Roth account and how they've helped me reach the 3%. Now, I have made a few mistakes along the way. I do have one trade that I shouldn't have done in my Roth. It's a pretty big trade. I'll also talk about that and what I've learned, the best way to trade an account like my Roth, which is a $75,000 account. It seems to fluctuate. It'll go from 71,000 all the way up to 76,000. It recently reached pretty near 76,000. So, and then, the fact that a dollar within a Roth is worth a lot more than a dollar in an IRA or a 401k, again, because you can access those funds tax-free. So it kind of makes sense that you want to put most of your emphasis on your Roth IRA account compared to some of your other accounts. So I'll talk a little bit more about that again at the end of the video. So what is really key for a Roth account, and if you're like me, my Roth account is one of my smaller accounts. It's around 75,000, like I mentioned a few minutes ago. So you have to right size your positions. You don't want to be trading extremely expensive positions, meaning Meta's not probably a good opportunity, especially if you're like me and you want to own the shares. It's just too expensive at $600-700 a share. You really can't afford it. So picking the right positions, maybe doing fewer contracts, maybe picking stocks that are a little bit less expensive. maybe a 15, 20, $30 stock, maybe running the wheel on it month in and month out, maybe for a stock or ETF that really doesn't move that much. And then maybe picking up a few really good names that could potentially grow substantially over the coming years. Now, the other big deal that's made a big difference with all my accounts, but especially my Roth, is closing positions early. So I like to use a 15 delta for my vertical put credit spreads. And then I like to find companies, especially while we're going through earnings. If a company misses earnings, I like to, and it's a good company, I like to, jump in after they've missed earnings and maybe the stock is down big time and take a position in them at that point. Mainly because if you do a 15 delta cash secured put or vertical put credit spread, you're going to get it at a real low value. Now, if that stock recovers fairly quickly, then you can potentially close that position way early. And that's what I've been trying to do. I like to open a position 45 to 60 days out, and then a lot of times close it 15 to 30 days early. So a lot of my positions are right around 30 days, some maybe as short as 15 days. Some may go all the way to expiration, but that's much less than what it used to be. I used to let a lot more positions expire, but now I'm probably closing 60, 70% of my positions, and on a very small number are making it to expiration and actually expiring. So those are some of the key things that have made a big difference recently. I always stress to people, pick good companies, pick quality companies. I don't take big risks, so I don't deal with leveraged ETFs. I don't deal with companies that are maybe too highly valued. I like to look at fundamentals. I like to make sure companies, the PE isn't way out of whack compared to their sector. I also like companies that don't have a lot of debt or no debt. I also, if it's a dividend payer, I want to see them increasing dividends or growing dividends. I also want to see small payout ratios. If they're growing, I like to see steady growth. I also like to see if they're profitable. I like to see a good return on equity, a good return on invested capital. I like to see good cash flow. Are they growing their cash flow? So those are key things that I look at, and I don't change that. I still, especially if I'm picking stocks, I still look at those things. Now for ETFs, I also like trading ETFs. And then for these kind of accounts, the fact that the ETFs can be safer because you're not dealing with earnings. You don't have to deal like with a stock where quarterly you have earnings and the stock may shoot up or may drop big time. So I also like trading in good quality ETFs. I like XLE. I'll do IWM. At times I will also look at like XLK versus QQQ, but I don't do XLK as much in this account. I do it more in my IRA. I prefer XLE. And then there's a few others that relate to, like I think it's IJR, which I believe is related to real estate. But there's a couple of different ETFs I do like to trade, and they're a little bit safer. They're a little bit easier to trade. Rarely have I ever been assigned an ETF for, say I've been assigned 10 different securities, probably 9 are stocks, and maybe 1 is an ETF. So it's pretty rare. Now, what also is really critical, and probably the main reason for this video, is tracking your progress. Like I said, setting goals. So looking at your positions, managing your positions. I like to look at my positions towards the end of the day. I like to see what's profitable. If there's anything I can close, a lot of times I'll jump in and I'll see if I can close it for cheap. Like today, I closed a position in UPS, and it looked like it was about 85% profitable, but I was able to close it for even cheaper. So it was even more like 90% profitable when I closed it. So I do that at the end of the day. I also try to close as many positions as I'm opening every month, and that I've actually been able to beat that. I've been able to close more than I open and slowly reduce the number of positions. It also helps to close the position and open a new one. Like I said earlier, kind of, turning the wheel a little bit more, putting your capital, reinvesting it, especially if you have a position that's very profitable. Why keep something open if all you can earn is $10, $20, $30 more? Go ahead and put that capital someplace else and earn a lot more. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Next, I'm going to share with you my trades and then what it looks like with the compounding. If you can earn something like 3% on a monthly basis in your Roth account, or even just 1 or 2%. I also wanted to share what it looks like for 1 or 2%. Because again, when I've talked about it in the past, it's really hard to do the same return every month. So, it may be 3% on average, but you may have a 2% month, you might have a 5% month, a 1% month. But on average, if you can get 3%, it can have a radical impact on your account and how quickly that account grows. So let's jump into that next section, and we'll go into that in a little more detail, my trades in my Roth, as well as what that compounding looks like. So let's jump into it now. Okay, now I've opened up my October planning worksheet. This is what I provide to my membership. They can delete my trades, put their trades in. But this is where I stand currently for my goals for the whole portfolio. At 96.19. So, and I have today and tomorrow left, so I might hit 10,000. It already is my highest month for premium, so I may try to get to 10,000 or I may not, depending on what happens. There's a lot of big companies tonight that are going to be reporting earnings. So there may be some opportunities tomorrow for some pretty good trades, but what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to come over and I'm going to filter. So let's move over to the right, and then I'm going to filter, and I just want to see my Roth trades. So here you can see just my Roth trades. These are the blue are positions I've closed. The green are brand new positions. The gray are ones I've rolled. So you can see here I've closed 3. 1 has expired, and then I've opened 5. And then I've rolled, close to 6 or 7. And I've done a little bit of everything. I've got PayPal. I've got Instacart. I've done a number of trades on Mara. I'm doing trades in all my accounts for Mara. And you can see I repeat a lot of these. Mara is fairly inexpensive. It's right now right around $18 or $19. PayPal is in the low 60s. U is a security-based company. It's in the high 20s. I believe it may be 30, 31 currently. But I was able to do some trades 29, 24. American Airlines, another one fairly inexpensive. Intel, same kind of scenario, a stock that's typically under 50. Then I do have Schwab. I did a trade. This is a covered call. I've owned the position for quite a while. FCX, it's a mineral-based mining company, and they have good numbers too. So, and then Ethereum is something I've done recently. And then NVO is another one I've done. So a pretty good mix. Now, the one I've made a mistake with is EAT. This is Chili's. This is the parent of Chili's. And they actually had good earnings, but they still got hammered. They're down like 10 or 15% just this week. And they're $135 stock. So my short was 135, my long was 120. And this was probably a little bit too pricey for this account. You can see everything else other than Schwab was under $50. I do have CLS. which is a covered call. So I look at it differently. I currently don't have a put on it. Now, if I look at the premium for all of these, and here's the premium, and we can see where I currently stand. So it's right now at 2706. So it's actually a little bit higher because I had a trade today. So if we look at, and I know the account was 73,000, so 2706. So if we bring up the calculator, 2706 divided by 73, let's just say 73,500. That's like a 3.6. So actually, one of my best months is this month in October in my Roth. Now, some of this I may give back because of this EAT trade. They may get assigned to me. And depending on what happens with it, I might end up giving some of that back. But I definitely did over 3.6% and not a ton of trades. It looks like I had maybe 10 or 11 trades. And a lot of these were closing. So closed to, one expired. Some of them were rolls, so it's what we won't count the closed ones, but it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 trades. These I actually have not made trades in this month, so these are opportunities I could do a trade, but these are all covered calls here, and this is the only vertical credit spread. So again, I was able to make that kind of a return, and that's just for October. These are the trades I've just done for October, and one of these I just did literally today. The cart trade I just did today. You can see here, 10:30. I just did that trade, rolling cart, which is Instacart. And if you've never tried Instacart, I encourage you to try it. I love it. I don't like grocery shopping, and the fact that someone else will do it for me, and the app makes it really easy to set up, what you need. It remembers what you did last time. It gives you suggestions. If there's a loyalty program, like with Kroger, you can connect to that. It can give you the discounts. I really like it. I use it all the time. It's one of the things that probably saves me several hours each week. Now, I wanted to share with you guys what it looks like if you can get 1% compounded on a monthly basis, or 2% or 3%, what that looks like. So, and this is over 5 years. So starting balance, this is my starting balance at the beginning of October. It was 73,244. If you can do 1 year, just 1%, you'll be at 81,000, 2%, 89. And then for 3%, 102, and that's assuming you're just starting at the very beginning of the month, meaning you have a full 12 months. And then for 2 years, you can see it grows to 90,000, 108, 151. 3 years, 100, 132, 221,000. And again, this is based on you're trying to get 1% of the end of the previous month balance, or 2% or 3%. So literally after 5 years, if you're only doing 1%, your account can grow to 124,000, which is, even just 1% is pretty significant. A lot of financial planners will tell you they can get you compounded 8%. But I believe that 1% is more like 14 or 15% on a yearly basis. 2% is probably closer to 26, 28%. And then I know 3% is pretty close to like a 40 or 42% compounded. So you could potentially turn, a $73,000 account into 472. And that's pretty aggressive. Now, most likely you'd be somewhere in between. Maybe the 2% is more likely. Again, because it's hard to do it month in and month out. We're going to have months where we have a major correction, like back in April. But you can see how it can really impact your account. And if it's a Roth, then you can do things with that account. You can easily pull the money out, especially after you're 59 and a half. Even before that, depending on how long the money's been in the account. But it's definitely, if you're going to try to grow one particular account faster than any of the others, it's definitely your Roth. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. What do you think? Are you doing something like this? Are you focusing more on your Roth retirement accounts compared to your general IRA? Leave a comment. I do like to try to respond within 24 to 48 hours. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.